My name is Clara. I am 35 years old. I have been married for 16 years. My husband's name is Martin. We have 2 daughters. Sophia is 14 and Ella is just 2. I take care of the home and the children. Martin works and pays the bills. People think we are a happy family, but they don't see what is really happening. I remember one night clearly. I was feeding Ella. Sophia was doing her homework. The house was quiet, but something felt wrong. I looked at the clock. Martin was late again. I told Sophia, maybe he's just busy. She didn't answer. She just stared at her book. Then she said, "Mom, why doesn't Dad come home anymore?" Her voice was soft, but her eyes were full of pain. I didn't know how to answer. I didn't want to lie, but I didn't want to break her heart either. I held her and said, "I don't know, baby, but I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." That night, I cried in silence while holding Ella in my arms. She slept peacefully on my chest, breathing softly like nothing in the world could ever hurt her. But I knew one day she would ask questions too. Where is Daddy? Why doesn't he hug us anymore? Why did he stop smiling when he looked at Mommy? I thought about these questions every night, and every night I had no answers. It started slowly. Martin began coming home late. He said he was tired. He didn't eat dinner with us anymore. He stopped looking at me. He stopped playing with the girls. I tried to ask him what was wrong. He just said, "You worry too much." But I felt it. A wall had grown between us, one I couldn't climb. If you've ever looked at someone you love and felt like they don't see you anymore, then you know how I felt. If you've held your children while hiding your tears, trying to be strong for them, then maybe this story is for you. And if you've been hurt but stayed quiet, for your kids, for your home, then you are not alone. One night I checked his phone. I didn't want to, but I had to. I needed to know. He was asleep. I looked at his call list. There was one number he called every day. I called it. A woman answered. She was calm. She said, "Yes, I'm with Martin." I know he has a wife. That's not my problem. My hands were shaking. I felt sick. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I put the phone down and went to the bathroom. I sat on the floor. I didn't wake Martin. I just cried alone. The next day, I told him I knew. I said, "Please be honest. I know you have someone else." He didn't deny it. He just looked at me coldly and said, "I'll stop when I feel like it. You can't control me." My heart broke again, but I said nothing. I had no power. I was just the woman at home, the one who kept the kids quiet, the one who cooked, the one who cried in secret. Martin started spending less and less time at home. He stopped saying goodnight to Sophia. He didn't notice when Ella learned a new word. He didn't care when Sophia cried in her room. I did. Everything. I held them. I wiped their tears. I stayed strong when I had no strength left. Sophia started changing. She stopped talking to her friends. She stopped smiling. She asked me, "Did Dad stop loving us?" I couldn't answer. I just hugged her tight. I told her we would be okay. I didn't know how, but I had to believe it for her, for Ella. My baby still laughed and played. She didn't understand the pain, but I did, and I was carrying it alone. One night, Martin came home very late. I asked, "Where were you?" He said, "Stop asking questions. I'm tired of this." I didn't reply. I just walked away. I looked at Sophia's door. It was closed. She had heard everything. We had money problems, too. Martin used to help pay for the apartment. It's in my name. But now he spent money on restaurants, on gifts, on his new life. I had no job. I couldn't return to work yet. We needed him, and he knew it. That's why he didn't care. He felt powerful. One evening, I made his favorite food. I cleaned the house. I wore the dress he once said he liked. I was trying. I was still trying. He came home late. He didn't look at me. He sat down and said, "We need to talk." I knew what was coming. I felt it in my bones. I said, "What is it?" He looked at me with empty eyes. He said, "I don't love you anymore." Just like that. Cold. Flat. Like I was a stranger. Like I never meant anything. I just stood there. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything. Martin's words were still in the air, floating above us like smoke after a fire. I don't love you anymore. That was it. The end of everything I believed in. The end of the man I once called my husband. He didn't try to explain. He didn't say sorry. He just looked at me like he was tired, like I had asked for too much. He pushed his chair back and went into the bedroom. He opened the closet and pulled out a bag. He began to pack. His shirts, his shoes, his charger. I watched him. I didn't speak. I couldn't. I felt frozen, like time had stopped inside that small room, while outside the world still moved. Sophia was in her room. Ella was asleep on the couch, hugging her toy rabbit. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab that bag and throw it. I wanted to ask him, "How can you leave like this? How can you look at your daughters and still walk away?" But I didn't. I stayed quiet. I watched him zip the bag, walk to the door, and stop. He turned around. He looked at Ella and then at me. His voice was flat. He said, "Tell them I'm sorry." Then he opened the door and left. Just like that. The sound of the door closing felt louder than anything I had ever heard. Louder than crying. Louder than silence. I sat on the floor, still holding the spoon from dinner. The food had gone cold. My hands were shaking. I had no idea what to do next. That night was the longest night of my life. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just lay there on the bed, staring at the ceiling. I kept looking at the empty space beside me, the space where he used to sleep, the space that now felt like a black hole. I reached for his pillow. It still smelled like him. I threw it across the room. I didn't want that smell anymore. I didn't want any piece of him in that house. But I knew I couldn't remove him from my heart so easily, not when he had been part of every day for 16 years, not when we had 2 daughters, not when I had loved him completely, even when he gave me nothing back. In the morning, I tried to act normal. I made breakfast. I brushed Sophia's hair. I changed Ella's diaper. But everything felt different. The house felt empty, like something important had been ripped away. Sophia came into the kitchen and looked around. Then she asked, "Is Dad coming back?" I looked at her and wanted to lie. I wanted to say yes, just to see her smile. But I couldn't lie to her again, so I said, "No, sweetie, he left." Her face changed. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just stood still and said nothing. Then she turned around and went to her room. I heard the door close. That soft click broke me more than all the screaming in the world. Days passed. Then weeks. Martin didn't call. He didn't message. He didn't ask about the girls. He didn't send money. I was alone. I had no job. I had no savings. The bills started to come in. I sold some jewelry to buy food. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want people to look at me with pity. I just kept going. I woke up every day and took care of the girls. I smiled when I wanted to cry. I played with Ella and read books to her. I helped Sophia with schoolwork, even though my mind was somewhere else. I was living, but I wasn't alive. I was surviving. One day, I saw him. It was by accident. I was walking home from the store with a bag of groceries and Ella in the stroller. Sophia was walking beside me. We passed a small coffee shop, and there he was, Martin, sitting outside with that woman, the same woman I had called months ago. She was laughing. He was smiling. He looked relaxed, happy, free. He didn't see me at first, but then he looked up. Our eyes met, just for a second. He didn't say anything. He didn't even look surprised. He just looked away like I was nobody, like we had never shared a life, like our daughters didn't exist. I stood there frozen. Sophia saw him too. She pulled my hand and said, "Let's go, Mom." So we walked. I didn't turn around. When we reached home, I locked the door and sat on the floor. I hugged Ella. I cried quietly. Sophia sat next to me and placed her hand on my shoulder. She didn't cry. She was strong, stronger than I had ever been. She said, "He doesn't deserve our tears." I nodded. I wiped my face. I got up and made dinner. Life didn't stop just because my heart was broken. That night, I went to my room. I opened my drawer and took off my wedding ring. I looked at it for a long time. Then I placed it inside the drawer and closed it. I sat by the window with a cup of coffee and looked at the night sky. It still hurt, but in that moment, I decided something. I couldn't let this pain destroy me. I had 2 daughters who needed me. I had to be strong, not for him, not for the past, but for us. Each morning after that was slow and quiet. The house was not the same without Martin. It felt colder somehow, even when the sun came through the windows. There were moments when I thought I heard his voice, maybe from a dream still stuck in my ears, but it was just silence. I woke up every day and forced myself to move. I cleaned the house. I made breakfast. I dressed the girls. But I felt like I was floating, like my body was doing everything, but my heart was far away. I had to learn how to live again without him. I had to live not as a wife, but as a single mother. I had to do everything on my own. And I had no time to feel sorry for myself because 2 little girls needed me to be whole even when I was in pieces. Sophia was quiet most days. She stopped asking about her father. I think she had decided to forget him, or maybe just pretend. I saw her trying to stay strong for me. She washed dishes without being told. She helped feed Ella and read her stories when I was too tired. She was becoming a little mother. It made me proud, but it also made me sad. She was too young to carry so much pain. I once saw her looking at a photo of Martin. She didn't cry. She just stared at it for a long time. Then she placed it back inside the drawer and didn't say a word. That moment stayed with me. I wanted to say something, but I knew she didn't want to talk. Sometimes silence says more than words. Ella was still full of life. She smiled when I entered the room. She ran to me with her tiny arms open wide. She didn't understand what had changed. She just knew her daddy was not home. Sometimes she asked, "Where is Papa?" And I would say, "He's not here right now." She would nod like she understood, then move on to her toys. But every time she asked, it felt like a knife in my heart. I couldn't tell her the truth. She was too young to hear that her father had left her. I didn't even fully understand why he left us like that. Maybe I never would. Money was a problem now. I sold a few more things from the house. Some furniture, a necklace, even the watch Martin gave me years ago. I didn't want to keep anything that reminded me of him. I started looking for part-time work. I couldn't leave Ella in daycare yet, so I looked for jobs I could do from home. I found small ones, writing, calling people, simple tasks, but it was not enough. I skipped meals so the girls could eat more. I wore old clothes while Sophia grew out of hers. I felt guilty all the time. Guilty for not having more. Guilty for not being stronger before. Guilty for trusting Martin when he had already broken me once before. One afternoon, I went to the mailbox and found a letter. It was from the bank. It said we were late on the loan payment. I sat on the steps outside the apartment holding the letter. I felt like the walls were falling again. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But I didn't. I went back inside, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the wall. I had no plan. I had no help. I didn't want to call my parents. I didn't want to hear them say, "We told you so." I didn't want pity. I just wanted a way to fix everything, but I couldn't see it. That night, when the girls were asleep, I went into the bathroom and looked at myself in the mirror. My face looked older. My eyes were tired. My hair was messy. I didn't recognize myself. I placed both hands on the sink and said softly, "You are still here." It was a strange thing to say, but it was what I needed. I was still standing, still breathing, still a mother. I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. I cried that night, but it was a different kind of cry. It wasn't just pain. It was release. I let everything out. I cried until my face hurt. Then I washed it, drank a glass of water, and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up with a strange kind of energy. I made pancakes for the girls and even played music while cooking. Sophia looked surprised. She smiled a little. Ella danced in her chair. For a short moment, I felt like we were okay. I told myself, even if Martin never comes back, even if he never sends a single coin, we will find a way. I don't need him to love me anymore. I just need to love my daughters and teach them that they are not weak, that life may hurt, but we keep going. That week, I applied for more work. I joined a small online group of women who were also single mothers. They helped me find ideas. They shared stories. I saw that I wasn't alone. That helped more than anything. One woman told me, "Don't wait for someone to save you. You're already saving yourself." That sentence stayed in my mind. I wrote it down and placed it near my mirror. Every time I felt like crying, I read it again. But healing is not a straight line. Some days I felt strong. Other days, I wanted to curl up and disappear. I still missed Martin sometimes, even after all the pain. I still remembered his voice, his smile, the good days. I hated that my heart still wanted him back. But at least now I was honest about it. I didn't pretend to be okay anymore. I was broken, but I was healing. And slowly, very slowly, I started to feel like myself again. It was a Sunday afternoon when it finally hit me. I was sitting by the window, watching the rain fall, with a cup of coffee in my hand. Ella was playing quietly on the floor, stacking her little blocks, and Sophia was on the couch reading a book. The house was peaceful, not because everything was fine, but because I had stopped fighting the truth. Martin was not coming back. There would be no apology, no sudden knock at the door, no soft words asking for forgiveness. He had chosen his path, and that path did not include us. The man who once held my hand during storms now lived in a calm I would never know again. I took a slow breath and let that truth sit with me. It didn't crush me like it used to. It still hurt, but the pain was softer now. It didn't scream anymore. It just whispered from time to time. A few days later, Sophia came to me while I was folding laundry. She sat on the bed and said, "Mom, I want to talk." I stopped folding and looked at her. Her face was serious, but her voice was calm. She said, "I don't hate Dad. I just don't understand how he could leave us like that." I reached for her hand. I didn't say much. I just held her hand and said, "Me neither, sweetheart." She looked like she had been holding those words inside for a long time. She started to cry. Real tears, not silent ones. The kind of tears that shake your shoulders. I pulled her close and let her cry into my arms. I wanted her to know that it was okay to feel broken, that it was okay to miss someone who hurt you. I wished I could take her pain away, but all I could do was sit there and cry with her. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Sophia's face, about the strength it took for her to open up like that. I also thought about Ella, who would grow up without a father in her memories. One day she would ask more questions. One day she would want to know why he left. And I would have to answer her with the truth, but not with hate. I promised myself I would never speak badly about Martin to my children, not because he deserved kindness, but because they deserved peace. I didn't want them to grow up with anger in their hearts. I didn't want them to carry the weight of his choices. Weeks passed, then months. I found better work online and started to earn enough to keep us going. I even managed to save a little. The fear of losing the apartment slowly faded. I painted the walls of the living room a soft cream color. I threw away old things that reminded me of the past. I bought a small second-hand bookshelf for Sophia and a colorful mat for Ella to play on. The house still felt small, but now it felt more like home. A home we built again from nothing. A home full of cracks, but also full of light. One morning, I woke up and the sunlight was coming through the window in a way that made everything look golden. I looked at my daughters sleeping beside me. Ella's hand rested on Sophia's arm. Sophia had her face turned toward Ella. They looked peaceful. I smiled. In that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt proud. Not proud of what had happened, but proud of what we survived. We had been left behind, but we didn't fall. We had cried, but we never stopped trying. Then one afternoon, while walking to the store, I saw Martin again. This time, I was alone. He was across the street getting into his car. He looked older, thinner. His hair was messy. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did and chose to. Pretend he didn't. I didn't stop. I didn't stare. I just kept walking. My heart didn't jump like it used to. I didn't feel that pain in my chest. It was strange. I felt nothing. Not hate, not love, just peace. That was the moment I knew I had truly moved on. He was now just a chapter in my life. A painful one, yes, but no longer the whole story. When I got home, I made dinner. Ella sat in her chair and asked for more rice. Sophia told me about a boy in school who liked her drawings. We laughed. We played music. We cleaned the kitchen together. I looked around and thought, this is it. This is my life now. Not perfect. Not what I had planned, but ours, and real. Later that night, after the girls went to sleep, I sat down and wrote in a small notebook. It was something I had started doing to help myself heal. I wrote, I lost a husband, but I found myself. I lost the dream of a perfect family, but I built a new one with my daughters. I cried 1,000 nights, but I still woke up. and I still love, even after all the pain. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe one day, love will find me again. Maybe it won't. But I know this. I will never lose myself again for someone who doesn't value me. I will never stay silent when I deserve answers. And I will never believe that I am too weak to start again. I am not just a woman who was left. I am a woman who stayed, who stood up, and who kept going. To anyone listening, maybe you've been through something like this. Maybe someone you trusted broke your heart. Maybe you're still waiting for them to come back. But let me tell you something. Sometimes the person you're waiting for is not coming. And that's okay, because the one who truly needs you is you. You are the one who will carry yourself through the dark. You are the one who will rise again and again. You are the one who will teach your heart how to beat without breaking. And if you're holding on by a thread, just like I was, I want you to know something. You are stronger than you think. You are braver than you believe. And you are never truly alone. Because I'm here too. I made it through. And you will too.